And here we go. Episode 5, Season 3, Run the Tibby podcast. We are back from a hiatus. Snow money is better than no money, but let me introduce who we have here. We have TJ Tibbs, aka Tibby Turner, aka Victor Oladipo's cousin. And we have Harry Hazen, aka Cat Daddy, as you can see in the back, and aka the Stanky Leg. So let's talk about some things that have been
B
been
minus.
going on. I'm cool. I'm cool with that. We passed.
Okay.
Let's talk about some things that have been going on with us since we've been gone. Tibbs, you are about to get married.
Yes, sir.
What are some feelings about that? Are you anxious, nervous? What do we feel going into the big day?
Excitement, man. But the craziest thing is trying to get married during COVID is literally the worst thing in the world. Trying to planning and everything. I mean, you'll know a little bit of it. Hopefully, you don't have to deal with any of the nonsense I had to deal with. But just now that we're here in the final stretch, it's game week. Just excited to get it going.
Yeah.
So,
Are the nerves similar to NCAA tournament game vibes? Like
Sweet 16 tip off.
Yeah.
Nah, it's unlike. You're gonna have to ask me the day of. Like, I'm not nervous at all. Just wanted to be here, especially being pushed back so many times and everything. So I wouldn't call it nervousness. I wouldn't call it anxiousness. I'm definitely excited and just ready to go.
I think this will probably come out after after you.
No, this will come out pre-wedding.
Oh, cool. All right. I was gonna say it serves as a little time capsule, but still, regardless.
Yeah.
Harry, you are an artiste. Talk to us about what's going on with that.
Basically, I listened to my motion design school, which is what I'm doing now with my time since quarantine became a thing. And they had this artist on. I don't know if you heard of. I mean, we talked about it. The guy that sold his crypto art for $4 million, and he got really popular by posting a creation, whether it be a drawing or a 3D video render, whatever. He's done that every day for 13 years, just for the purpose of tracking his improvement. So I was kind of just yo, I could do that. I'm never going to have this much time on my hands ever again. So I might as well try and get to, I don't know, 6 months. And even in the first 2 weeks, I've definitely gotten a lot better. So that's just I mean, as basketball coaches and trainers, we just seeing improvement over time, period. So it's kind of just the one way I could satisfy that itch right now. And I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, hopefully Run the City training the business can be stabilized by you selling your crypto art as an NFT.
Yeah, sorry for anyone who thought we were a training page. We're just a podcast and I post drawings on there. So
what about you, Steven? What you been up to?
Snowman.
Yeah, young, aka Young Jeezy.
Mr. Snowman. Yeah, a lot of work.
Can you explain to people what that's like? Because I don't think everyone listening knows, one, that you're a sanitation worker, and two, what that schedule entails when we have snowstorms.
Yeah. So I think people think that when the snow stops, that we get to stop, but we don't get to stop, because then all the garbage that we didn't pick up when we were plowing the streets, we have to go pick it up. So it's basically, I think I worked 25 straight 12-hour days. That ended last week. So I think I'm lagging, but whatever.
Who cares? Well, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back. Like I was saying, I got vaccinated today, found some time. Got vaccinated today at Susan Wagner High School. Very excited about that.
Wow.
And you're still living, contrary to all the Instagram memes.
Yeah. So after you get vaccinated, they make you sit there for 15 minutes. Like you have to, just in case you get an immediate reaction. So I thought for sure, like if it was gonna happen,
I thought for sure you'd be coming on today doing the Thriller dance. That damn vaccination.
That vaccination gave me this. This is why my hair is growing all weird. That's why.
Yeah. Use that.
Bad side effect. Let's talk about some stuff that's going on outside of our lives. The New York Knicks, Harry, are the New York Knicks now? They're 18-17 in the 4 seed. Are the New York Knicks a legit contender in the East?
He said contender.
Harry.
No. What?
Harry,
What's up?
Who do you root for?
Steph Curry and James Harden. I don't really have like a team. I'm like a players guy. I really just listen, when you try and be a Knicks fan for so long and then they mess up so many drafts in a row. Can I just
tales of a former Knicks fan, basically.
Can I just say a stat that Ross Burns told me the other day? He said, or the other
Shout
week,
out
rather.
to him. Love
yeah,
Ross Burns.
great dude. He I'm at one of their pickups and he just comes up to me and he goes, "Yo, trivia question for you. What's the last Knicks draft pick that made it to his second contract?" And I'm thinking like, I mean, this has to be someone within like my lifetime of watching basketball. Bro, do you know what the answer was?
Charlie Ward.
What are you doing for 20 years?
Is it Charlie Ward?
Yes.
Wow.
Charlie Ward. It's like, bro, so what is the point of the draft for you guys? It's just like yo, I can't.
Wow.
I'm done. I'm done with them. So
that's
listen,
incredible.
Watching Julius Randle become the greatest player in the NBA has been cute, but no, I could care less about the Knicks. And yeah, I don't have a team.
Wow, a little fun fact. Yesterday's Knicks game, Knicks versus Detroit, I actually got the trivia question right. Who are the two guys that have 10 N1 threes for the Knicks?
Jamal Crawford.
Yeah, that was easy.
Allen Houston?
Larry Johnson.
Nope. He has the most famous one. Nope.
Melo?
I'll give you guys one more guess each.
Prigioni.
Steve Novak.
No. John Starks.
Oh, who cares?
He was shooting threes like that?
Are you nuts? You guys are millennials, huh? Generation Z guys.
Yeah.
He was shooting threes like that. He's actually known for like his 0 for 9 or 10 he was in the finals. So from 3. So you're not shooting 0 for 9, 0 for 10 from 3 if you don't shoot threes.
Bro, listen. He dunked on Jordan. His career's cemented. But do we think that Julius Randle's better than Chris Bosh? Yes or no? Just real quick. I saw it on Twitter.
It's a horrible like why are we even talking about that? Like why? Because they're both left-handed.
And their position is power forward. That's why.
I don't believe that. Chris Bosh is not a positionless power forward.
No, I'm saying both of their positions are power forward.
Their positions are power forward. Chris Bosh is better just for the sheer fact that he's had a longer career. I think he was a 3 or 4 time All-Star before he went to the Heat, or overall he ended up being a 5 or 6 time All-Star. Like he did that on a regular basis. Shout to Julius Randle. Like he's been an absolute beast this year, but this is the first time that he's done that during a contract year. I love him. What he's doing, how he's playing, it's amazing. But we're not doing that.
And let's not act like if Chris Bosh didn't Chris Bosh didn't get into whatever rabbit hole of health problems he had,
right?
We wouldn't even be entertaining this. He might still be playing, honestly. Like that's last year or two.
That's such a casual conversation.
Yeah,
that's a bad one.
We don't do that here. guys.
Not doing that.
We don't do that here. And I don't know if there's any other current events that really matter in terms of basketball. All-Star snubs.
Why are they playing? Why do you have an All-Star game? None of them want to play. Name one person you know that cared about a recent All-Star game or that watched
no, wasn't last year? Wasn't last year good?
I thought last year was good. I had a conversation with somebody the other day that told me, like, I think it was my cousin. He told me he didn't like the new format. Oh, he didn't like the way they picked the teams. He didn't like it. He's kind of an old school enthusiast. That's just a matter of taste and opinion, so I can understand that. I do like the fact that, man, like, think about it. Back in the day, I'm just gonna take two random people that were always on one side. So like Hakeem Olajuwon and Jordan never played together in an All-Star game, and like today that could have happened. So I think that would have been cool. So I like that aspect of it. Like, yeah, LeBron is in the West, but in theory he could play with Giannis and Steph. Like, so that's like kind of cool because you grow up playing video games and moving people from team to team, and you could kind of see that. But yeah, I thought the game last year, especially the rules, and they played harder. And I do like the Elam ending. I mean, you hate to have it end on a free throw, but there was a suspense on every single shot. You guarantee, no matter what, it could be a blowout. You guarantee there's going to be suspense for a game-winning basket. So I like that for that. I don't like it for basketball in general, but I like it for an exhibition game type thing. So,
entertainment.
Yeah. I did like that for sure. But no, how about this, right? A lot of people, Devin Booker is now on the team because AD's hurt. But people were saying, Devin Booker got snubbed, right? LeBron was saying he's one of the most, or he is the most disrespected player in the league. Here's my thing. Who should he have made it over? So you say Devin Booker should be on. And Devin Booker, and I had this conversation about Brandon Ingram yesterday with my cousin. Brandon Ingram got snubbed. He said, no, he didn't. Said he's having an all-star year. Okay, that's fine. That doesn't make him an all-star because 12 people get picked. Yes, he's having an all-star type season. Yes, he is one of the best players in the league, having one of the best seasons. But he still has to be one of the 12 best, or really 7 best, because obviously the 5 at top could be selected. Basically, the fans and stuff like that have a huge part of it. So, but was he worthy of getting picked over somebody? So I asked you guys that because Devin Booker is on, but he was the 13th guy. So do you think he should have been on originally?
Well, who are like the last 3, like fringe?
Zion Williamson. You can argue Chris Paul because it, like numbers wise, you can argue Chris Paul, I guess. Maybe Rudy Gobert.
Well, doesn't it have to be guard for guard? Like,
let's in theory for the argument, let's say no.
Chris Paul is it's hard to take.
Well, narrative. In respecting the league, like wherever he goes, he uplifts that team and they're playing better. So he supersedes his stats. Like stats is the laziest argument. It should always be a like second or third supporting thing of an argument when you're talking about who's better. Like when you go to the stats, like use this argument all the time. If Harry averages 20 points and Steve averages 20 points, whose 20 points is better? And a lot of because you're a fan of you, right? Because you're selfish. A lot of people say, oh, it's the same thing. No, there's so many variables. Oh, well, whose team is winning? Now forget all that. Forget whose team is winning and all that. Whose team plays more possessions? What are they shooting from the field? How efficient are they? Harry's team averages 150 points. His 20 points are not as important as Steve's, whose team averages 60 points. Steve's 20 points are more important, especially if Steve shoots more efficiently from the field. So I hate using stats but anyway, Chris Paul, his narrative obviously is going to get him on. His narrative is respect. You're not going to take that away from him. He's got to have a bad year for him to not get selected for the All-Star, and you got to respect that. So who is Devin Booker getting picked over?
The answer is nobody.
Maybe Zion. That's the only thing. And people are going to say, oh, he's really having a great year.
He's having a hell of a year.
He's having a phenomenal year.
He's sick.
He's shooting over like 60%
yeah.
from the field. It's just like ridiculous.
Isn't he shooting like 35 from 3 too?
I think it's worse. But it's still insane. Like 60% from the field. Like his shot chart is just like dots around the rim. Dots around the rim. It's insane. Like I don't think anybody really expected that when he first got drafted. Like that type of dominance in the paint.
No, not at all. Because like you have, speaking of Julius Randle, like that's a guy who you start to think like, okay, maybe he could be like him with less skills, because he certainly has less like skill than Julius Randle, but his athleticism and his strength combination and his movement is so out of control. His second jump is so out of control, and guys are sagging off him. But that's why I love the NBA, man. I tweeted something about this the other day, like when Steph was ball screening Draymond. They were playing Charlotte, and Steph was ball screening Draymond. And I just thought the one clip that I had seen, it just shows the intricacies of the game of basketball at the NBA level. Because Steph is screening and you're thinking like, all right, that's in response to Cody Martin D'ing Draymond up full court, where Draymond is the pseudo point guard for the game, has 17 assists. So they screen with Steph, who has the most gravity in the entire planet. And it's like, oh, LaMelo Ball's a rookie. It's like, whoa, I didn't expect for this to happen. So now I can't show Draymond waltz to the basket. Then they don't want to switch because they don't want to have Cody on and Draymond with LaMelo. So they don't switch. So they obviously don't really work on this that much. So they kind of half show. Draymond hits Steph as a half roll, who hits a lifting. I think it was either Oubre or whatever. Hits a lifting, whoever it was on the wing. Like, that's just like beautiful basketball. That's like back-to-back possessions and professionals improvising and playing together. Like, that stuff is just so crazy. So going back to Zion point, people sag off him, and like, yeah, you can do that in high school. You can do it to college to an extent because you can kind of, clog stuff up. But he's just catching it and chopping it and just getting a running start into stuff and just destroying people at the rim. Like, even if he's not dunking on people, you just see shooting 60 plus. Like, he's shooting Shaq numbers from the field.
Yeah. Right. And mad inches shorter than him.
Yes.
But all right, let's get into, I kind of wanted to talk about Obi Toppin and like a mid-season take on Obi Toppin now that we've got to see some stuff.
Is this in comparison with like the other rookies? Because like I have a lot to say about that, because it's easy to say like, oh, well, right, the Knicks thing, like Tyrese Halliburton and all these guys, like, oh, look, the Knicks missed out on these guys. But I think there's a lot of narrative again, and like where these rookies are and what their situations are has a lot to do with either their immediate impact or their long-term impact. Because like the Warriors took James Wiseman, right? And he's a hell of a player. But shouldn't they have always took LaMelo Ball?
I wish they did. I wanted that to happen so bad.
Like, considering how they play, like, and the crazy thing is when you talk about the draft, you look at like James Wiseman, he's an incredible prospect. He's going to be an incredible player. But like, if you put him next to like Evan Mobley, who's coming out in this year's draft, like Evan Mobley is a much better prospect than James Wiseman, but they're not in the same draft. And Evan Mobley's going to end up going 2 or 3 or whatever he may go. But like his movement skills and his shooting ability, like it's just crazy, because I'm not surprised at what anybody's doing. Obi Toppin, I think, is doing a great job. Now, I do watch the Knicks a little bit more than I watch other teams. But like, I didn't think he was ever going to be this guy for a team the Knicks are trying to be, for a guy like Tibbs, was ever going to be a guy that was going to be spoken about as a top rookie year guy, which who cares? Because I forget who I was reading about, somebody who's in their year 2 right now. I really forget, but it's like they weren't all rookie team. It might come to me later, but they weren't all rookie team last year, but they're having an incredible year. Like, that stuff doesn't really matter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But what are you going to say about Obi? What you got, Harry?
Well, if you are listening or watching this, just rewind to 5 minutes ago where we talked about how the Knicks literally never sign anybody to a second contract. So I wish Obi Toppin a great career on in Indiana when he's done with his tenure as a Knick. Because the other thing is everyone that leaves the Knicks becomes really successful.
In the past. And there's a clear, I'm going to say this. How about Kenny Payne, man? Like, how about Kenny Payne? Kenny Payne leaves Kentucky. Now, Kentucky is obviously going to end up, they're a great program, but leaves Kentucky and they struggle. He goes to the Knicks, and a lot of these Kentucky, Julius Randle and IQ, and and these guys are just, they're flourishing. And I watch the games, and I watch when these guys come off the court. A lot of times, like Kenny Payne is like grabbing them, like, I don't know him at all, and just from following him from Kentucky, but he just knows how to connect with guys, and he's obviously been well revered for developing guys. And man, kudos to him, man. Like, kudos to that guy and his impact that he's had on both of those programs. But I think quickly is he's definitely fitting the role, and he's definitely I thought he's a very underrated and an awesome pick of where they got him so late. I think he'll be a guy that might be the guy before Obi Toppin, considering to make it to his next contract. He might be the next Charlie Ward. I never thought I'd say that.
Who would have thought?
As like high praise.
Who would have thought? That's great. But all right, let's get into what we got on the menu here for today. So I was listening to a PGC basketball podcast, Point Guard Camp, Tyler Costin. They do a lot of stuff in New York City and all over the United States. In their podcast, they were talking about leadership, and I think the question was, should your best player be your leader? And they brought up a couple of points about how sometimes the best player is a little timid, but the best player is inherently selfish, because the team wants them to shoot the ball. The team is going to have the most success if that player has the ball, does the most. So I wanted to ask you, Tibbs, from a coach's standpoint, and then Harry from a player standpoint. Do you want your best player to be the leader? And could someone who isn't the best player be the leader?
So in an ideal world, yes. Ideal world, perfect situation. Your best player is your most vocal, your first guy in, last guy out, and is your emotional leader. Ideal situation, right? But that's very rare. And that's because of personality traits. When guys are good at basketball, it doesn't automatically come with having leadership capabilities and having vocal capabilities, because I strongly believe there's no such thing as a leader that leads by example. I don't believe in that. Like, oh, he's a leader that leads by example. Yeah, that's one of the boxes you have to check. But I don't think you can truly lead and just lead by example. I really believe that leaders have to be seen, they have to be felt, and they have to be heard. I'm not saying that you have to be the super rah-rah guy and loud and energetic and all that. That might not be your personality. But guys have to hear you. You have to go and pat guys on the butt and tell them good job. You have to get on guys. You don't have to necessarily curse them out or yell at them. That might not be your personality. But you do have to hold guys accountable. And you can't hold guys accountable by example. When guys are goofing off and doing stuff and you're doing everything right and they're still goofing off, you can't hold them accountable. You have to say something. And guys have to know you have a presence in the room. I really do feel that way. So ideally, everybody says your best player's got to be a leader and everything. I in all my coaching career, I've never had captains. And this year coming up, 21, 22, I've actually really thought heavily about naming captains. And mind you, we haven't practiced in a year. And most of my seniors, my upperclassmen, are going to be gone. So most of my team next year is going to be new guys that I haven't even had a practice with. So how do you name captains? But we still have things that are going on where you can tell guys are trying to lead. They're trying to be vocal on Zoom calls. They're doing the right things. we have to do our part as coaches in developing that. So when your best player is not your leader, you need a collection of leaders. But you need a collection of leaders anyway. The one thing that you can't have is you can't have a bad kid on your team, bad as far as doesn't play and is not that good, can't be the leader. That's very rare for that guy to be the leader. Because when it comes down to it, a lot of guys, especially at the age that my guys are at, 18 to 23, and then we talk about other levels of basketball, like high school, guys don't have the emotional maturity to follow a kid that can't play basketball that well. Because in the end, it's going to be like, stop, you're being a kiss ass, you're not good. That's emotional immaturity. The Miami Heat's leader is Udonis Haslem, right? Like, he's a major leader in there. He's not the only one, but he's a major leader. And he doesn't play. He doesn't suck, but he certainly is not one of the better players on the team right now. But in the professional level, they have that emotional intelligence and emotional maturity to look at UD and to respect what he's done. When you get an 18-year-old kid coming from being the best player on his team and everybody telling him how good he is, and now he comes in as this 21-year-old kid who's not good, right? But works his butt off all the time. Kids don't want to follow that all the time automatically. It's a harder sell. So all the leaders have to be seen, they have to be felt, and they have to be heard. And that doesn't automatically come with just being a good basketball player.
So now, Harry, let me ask you, as a player, do you think that the team respects a leader who isn't the best player?
I mean, first I'll say, like, to gain that respect and not be a relevant player at all, like what Tibbs just said, that's like extremely rare. And there are cases where someone is just a natural born leader personality wise. Like, not to say he was a bad basketball player, but the first person that I think of that comes to mind is Coach John Buck from Lehigh, is someone who at Wake Forest was the captain, I believe, all 4 years, or one of the captains. I don't want to say the captain because I'm not sure, but this is a team that had Chris Paul on it, and John Buck was recognized as someone who was like a leader for them. And fast forward to now and getting to be around that program and see him run practices, like, yeah, I could see if you told me this is the same or a similar person that he was when he was 19 to 21 years old, I would say, yeah, I would still follow his lead even if he didn't play at all, you know? But I do think it is extremely difficult for me as a player to listen to somebody who can't provide any value on the basketball court, because then how are you leading me? You're just being a motivational speaker. And just like from just my standpoint and just like how I am as a person, like personality wise, like I don't really respond well to that. Like if you literally can't offer me anything like content wise, because that's really what I would look for when I'm listening to somebody. If you're just like I'm gonna run you through a wall type of guy, I could care less if you're in the gym first. If I'm gonna bust your ass when we play 1-on-1, like, I'm sorry. Like, and someone who I think of is you know, a guy like Omar when we were at Brooklyn, who, you know, was a guy that was like a boxer and he was like heavy into just, you know, his conditioning, and he was a guy that would get you to run through a wall. But at some point it's like, dude, and he's self-aware enough to know, like, he literally told us, he would put us in touch with Jermaine Sanders. It's like, yo, I don't really know a lot about basketball, but I just know I'm like a motivator. So as far as like just a motivator, that really doesn't do it for me. Me.
I think the same goes with coaching too. As far as like, you know, everybody wants coaches to be like these great X's and O's guys. And I think actually all that stuff is becoming less and less relevant. I think in the NBA level, it matters a lot. I think in college and high school, of course, you'd rather be in the top 1% rather than be the alternative or in the middle. But there's so much, and you can say today's kid or whatever the case may be, there's so much that has to do with how do you connect emotionally and psychologically with these kids? And how are you, especially in college where you got the transfer portal and you got social media, these guys just have the instant gratification. They have people critiquing them or not critiquing them or giving them praise right after the game. They're getting this. Like, it's crazy. Like, I graduated in 2012 and I thought it was a big deal after a really good game if I had like 5 Twitter mentions. Like, I thought it was dope. And you look at these guys who play big time college basketball or even anywhere, like they can just go and search their name and they can get gratification, or they can see guys like really, talking shit about them. So it's a different world that we live in because of the technology. And I think the motivational part, but the real connection part is becoming a lot more valuable, especially when kids are, social issues and all these things are becoming a big part of athletic programs. So how do you handle that as a leader? Because kids are realizing that, to use LeBron's tagline, that they're more than just an athlete, and more than ever. If you expect kids, both as a leader on a team and as a coach, if you expect kids to just listen to what you say because you're an authority figure, it's going to be long for you, because like it just doesn't work that way. And maybe some people have that respect because they've been in it for a long time and they've had results. But even with that being said, like, we just live in a world where it's like, what have you done for me lately? Nobody cares what you've done in the past. You got to keep producing and producing. And that's the challenge with leadership for guys on teams, because when you have a bad game, people are looking at you like you've been talking all that hot, but now you soaking in the corner. When I'm soaking in the corner, I'm being this and that. But now you soaking because you got to get yourself right. You got to lead by example. you got to be there at that point. So it's very difficult.
I think as a coach, I think a lot of coaches say that they don't want their teams to be led by them. They want their teams to be led by the players. And I think that a lot of players think that leadership is this movie-produced moment where they stand up in the middle of the locker room and they say,
Left side,
guys, come on, guys. We got to go out there and kick their butts. Like, yeah, like that shit. Fist pump, yeah, throwing fists and all that good shit. But in reality, I'm not sure. I've been on teams. Leadership is not like that at all. That moment never happens. It never happened. That moment never ever happens. And there are so many other little moments where true leadership is displayed. So I wanted to ask you, like, what are some things that you think that is true, real leadership?
That's a great question. I think guys who can be consistent and acknowledge, I don't want to say they're flaws, because everybody has flaws, but can acknowledge that they're not perfect. Because I think a lot of times when you put that leadership thing on somebody, they feel like they have to be perfect. But I think what's perfect in those positions is being open and showing that you're flawed too. Being vulnerable. I think being vulnerable is a huge characteristic you need to have to be a leader, because we want to portray, especially as men, we want to portray this whole facade that nothing ever bothers us, when a lot does bother us. We just all go about it differently, and we all could talk about it. And sometimes, like I say, like I have personally, like as a coach and as a player, I have cried in front of my team. Not, because something good has happened and because something bad has happened, because I've been so moved to emotion to cry. Like, I'm not stepping outside of the room to cry. Like, this is who I am. And I care so deeply about this that it has moved me to tears, and it happened to me when I played in college, and you feel like so relieved when you can do that, because I think guys respect that, because I think a lot of times everybody wants to just break down and cry sometimes because things are really beating them down, but we're kind of taught from growing up to not cry, to be tough. So I think when you have guys that are leaders that can show that they're vulnerable and that they're going through stuff as well, and that they struggle and stuff, and they can humanize with people and level with people. I think that's the greatest characteristic to have.
My answer would be, I think in my playing career, I've really only played with one guy that comes to mind when I think of like the ultimate leader, and that's Chris Fowler, who you met, Diaz. And just a couple things about him that I always, I guess, just recognize, like, oh yeah, like he's the guy for us. He was our captain at IMG. He knew how to talk to everybody like a little differently. So like when he would tell me something, whether, good, bad, encouraging, like whatever the case, like he would talk to me completely differently than he would talk to somebody that was like another high major NBA level kid. But the consistency wasn't in like how he approached that. It was just like he was always like brutally honest, and like you knew it was just coming from like a like, yo, this is just what it is kind of place. And then the other thing about him that I guess kind of goes back to what we were just talking about as far as the content wise is he was just like so smart. Like there were legit moments where I thought that he was smarter than our coaching staff as far as just like how to operate in just certain situations and whatever. So when you have someone that you can just rely on, like you can always ask them a question and you'll never be upset with their answer, and they're like willing to give you that answer, I think that is kind of what a leader looks like. Because if you're the guy on the team, especially if you're the point guard, which I guess is a whole nother conversation as far as like what position should be your leader. If you're the point guard, you have to be vocal. So you're constantly going to be talking to everybody. So your way that you communicate with people has to be like perfect. So those are like the two things that I think of as far as the leader that I was around in Chris.
Yeah, I think.
And he was nice.
Yeah,
that's the third thing. He was insane.
Being nice doesn't hurt.
that certainly helps. Vulnerability and communication are definitely two huge things.
So can I just say one more thing? And I'm going on a Chris Fowler tangent, but like the other thing about him,
he deserves it.
Yeah, he does. The other thing about him in terms of like, even though he was nice, he never took a bad shot. Like he never would break a play and take a shot where you would say like, damn, why would he do that? Like I never.
Why is that important?
Because it's just like you always know that he is playing 5-on-5 basketball, and that's always something that goes on in his mind. And I know like in an interview when he was in college, he had said something to the effect of like, when I was a freshman, my role was this, but now I have to score more. And he knows like what is expected of him based on like his team. But as far as like his shot selection, like you knew you weren't being led by a selfish person. You knew he was looking for the best opportunity in a possession, period. He wasn't settling for like the pull-up three just because it was there that he could take whenever he wanted. Like he would barrel his way to the basket just to try and get fouls or layup opportunities. Like that's someone who you want to play for, instead of like the point guard who is just out there going around hedges, or people are going under his screens and he's just shooting it. Maybe they're going under your screen for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. That's just something I think is also important.
Tibbs, did you had something to say?
No, I asked him a question. He came back with it.
I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask as well. So let's say that your best player isn't your best leader, or your vocal leader, or your emotional leader, whatever the case may be. Are there ways? Do you think that there are ways that, okay, let's say that this player obviously is the one that's shooting the most shots. He's going to be the focal point of the offense, and that might, turn some people off on the team to him, especially if he isn't vocal as a leader. What are some ways that that player can make it known to the team, if he isn't the best vocal leader, that like, yo, I'm about the team. Like, this is what I'm about. Like, as a coach, do you think that that's something you demand from that player?
Yeah, but I also think that, especially considering like what type of program you have and where you're at, like you may be able to build that if you're working all year round, right? Like if you're a Division I team, you have them in the summer. The strength coach has them, and they're demanding that they do all this and all that. Then you can do that. But I think there is a cap on how good of a leader somebody can actually be. Like, you know what, this kid is just not going to be any more vocal. He's not, like, you're not making Tim Duncan like talk any more than he wants to talk. Like you're clearly not. So I think it's a good job. One, being good is really important. And to add on to Harry's point or piggyback is like being efficient and playing in a way that you're not selfish. Like for instance, like I've coached Christian Taylor, and he's one of the best players to ever play at the College of Staten Island. There's not even a question, right? Career wise, skill wise, eye test, whatever you want to call it. He's one of the best players to ever play. But he's not necessarily a vocal leader. But from when I got him from his sophomore year, from where he was really quiet, and how much he's grown on that aspect of it, he's taking huge steps. But he's still, for how good he is, he's not as vocal as you would think that he would be by watching him play the game of basketball, because he's so good and he's so efficient. And I think the biggest thing that the kids on the team respect is the fact that he shows up every day, practices hard, does what he's supposed to do, and then goes out in the games and does everything super well and efficiently. And then when you hear him talk in like interviews and stuff, because everybody watches that stuff. I watch interviews of other kids, and I watch it all the time, especially in our league. I watch it all the time. You're just trying to pick up something. And every time Christian Taylor has spoken, he has never come off as a selfish kid, even in games where he has had every right. I mean, he scored 38 points in the NCAA tournament as a sophomore, and we lost. And they asked him, man, well, how's it feel to score 38 points? And he sat there and said, can't really think about that. We lost. Like, my teammates, my seniors are in there crying. Like, I can't think about it. So he would never say that in a room full of us, but he was provoked, and he said that. I think that's leadership. It's just what he's going to do. He's not going to do that in the locker room per se. It doesn't make him a bad leader. It's just with a kid like that, you need other people to also lead. And, when he was younger, we had Ray Savages, Eden Brachich, Rob Rossiter, and Stephen Flagg. And, we had a whole bunch of guys who Christian didn't have to worry about that. So, I think there's a cap. You can push kids to the max. And believe me, I have tried it, and I will continue to try it. You can push them, but their personality is their personality. So you get into a dangerous part when you start to try to push people to be your lens of leadership. My lens of leadership is that if I'm happy for you, everybody's going to know it. If I'm mad at you, everybody's going to know it. That coincides with how I am in life, right? People who know me personally. It's the same thing. I'm like this. I'm always on. Like, that's how I am. But everybody doesn't have to be very, very vocal and all that for them to be a leader. So in my younger years of coaching, I failed in that because I was trying to not make people like me, but I thought, like, if you're not vocal, if you're not patting people on the butt, if you're not high-fiving them, then you're not a leader. It's not the truth. So that's just the way I chose to lead. And there's a lot of negatives about the way I lead. But you have to try to work with the kid to make them the best version of themselves. And even when I'm done with kids at 22 years old, they still have a lot to go to grow. So it's never going to be a finished product.
So, Harry, let me ask you, if the best player isn't the leader, you're on the team, what are some things that you want to see from that guy?
From the leader or from the best player? From the best player.
To let him know, or to make it known that he isn't just out there being a selfish player, taking 20 shots and scoring efficiently, but just not communicating it well, that he's about the team.
What do I want to see that kid do?
What do you want to see out of him? How do you respect him? How do you respect him?
Me personally, I don't.
Do you not respect him? Exactly.
I don't, because you're walking around like your shit don't stink, but you play like an asshole. That was like a double poop. Never mind.
Double poop emoji alert.
But like, I don't know. I never really liked that at all. When like I know I'm harping back on it again, but I think shot selection is just like such a telling factor, because and this is just something that I learned at IMG, like, if we all know this, if your big is running up and down the floor 20 times and they haven't gotten a touch, like, they're going to be pissed. And that's something, especially as a point guard, you have to handle. Like, you have to get him the ball and make him happy, or he's going to not give you effort on the other end. So if I am playing with best player at whatever position, and let's say I'm coming down as the backup point guard that I was for the majority of college, and I'm thinking we're running a play, and on the first pass, you shoot the shit, I'm tight. And even if especially if there's no like my bad or like an acknowledgement of like, maybe I shouldn't have done that, like, that always will piss me off.
And those go far. Those go very far.
Yeah.
I'm
And it's just,
I'm not really big on the shot selection. I was with you on your explanation before that. I'm not really big on shot selection being sometimes people need a heat check. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes somebody need to get that up.
Can I rephrase, or can I reiterate? Mm-hmm. If you're Kobe Bryant and you have earned the right to take whatever shot you want and you are the leader, that is one thing. But if you are like, who's like a talented guy in the league that just like
Malik Monk?
Yeah, like if Malik Monk goes and plays in a culture where they're expected to win championships and he just takes 25 shots and doesn't say anything, there's probably going to be some, I don't want to say animosity, but people
that's the coach. That's the coach, though. That's not. Do
you think whether it's the coach or not?
Somebody's letting him take 25 shots. So yes.
But I'm saying whether it's the coach or not, me as teammate, I'm going to be tight, because like, what are we doing?
Hey, listen. This is my opinion. Kids are going to be tight regardless. They're tight. Everybody tight. Everybody tight. Every game that I've coached in my life, everybody's tight. Ain't nobody happy, bro. That's just how it is. Get used to it. Yo, you win a game by 10 points, best player tight because he averages 20 and he got 17, right? Kids tight because he usually plays 25 minutes and he played 12, although he was in foul trouble. The 9th, 10th, 11th, through 12th tight because they didn't play. Like, everybody tight. Nobody
but those some of those are controllable factors, whereas like, I can't control if you just want to be selfish. Mm-hmm. If you just make the conscious decision, like, yo, but I don't think there's someone in the crowd. There's someone in the crowd I'm trying to put on for tonight. I'm not the guy. I know I'm not the guy. I know everyone here doesn't really look at me like the leader. Man, I'm pulling. I'm putting up 25 shots, and I'm gonna be pissed because we could have, as a team, we could have controlled the shots that we took, but you chose to do your own thing.
Yeah, I kind of see that. I do. But in the end, shot selection, I just think in the end, it has to be controlled by, it is like policed greatly by the players on the court, the team. But in the end, like, if guys are taking bad shots consistently, then that's the coach, I believe. It's the coach. You're playing them. That you can clearly see they're taking bad shots. Like, I don't think that's on the guys to police to that point, like, but I just think like, and obviously I'm exaggerating a bit about everybody tight, but people just go, if there's a reason for somebody to be mad, they're gonna find it.
They'll be mad.
They're gonna be mad. People wake up mad. Like, now, you know what I mean? That's why it's so rare, especially in coaching, when you find a group of kids that are inherently, they're not selfish and they want to see others succeed. Like, there's beauty in that. Like, you see them celebrating other people's success. Don't talk to me about the first 7 games of the year. Like, everybody's locked in on their role and the bench energy is great and whatever. But watch Jamal Martin for 25 games of a redshirt year. Literally, we're down 30 points and he's standing up, clapping, cheering. It doesn't, like, he's very happy for people. Like, those are rare kids to find. I'm happy that, You know, all my
You
kids
got
on
'em.
my team are like that. Yeah. Clapping up the luckiest guy in the world.
No, yeah, I think it's important for kids and people to know that leadership isn't always, yelling at somebody in front of a lot of people, like how people imagine it in the movies, or getting up in the middle of a locker room and giving this long drawn out speech that literally the coaches aren't even trying to hear. It comes in these little moments, these little interactions where you can make someone else better, and it in turn makes the team better. And I think that can wrap up our leadership podcast. This is episode 5. Run the Tibby Pod. We'll be back. Episode 6. About to order this pizza. Gonna hit you back. I don't know.